We imagine history as a completed book, but archaeology keeps finding torn pages, cryptic footnotes, and entire chapters written in a language we've forgotten. This isn't just about finding old things, it's about confronting discoveries that seem to break the very timeline of human achievement. Let's explore 30 finds that feel less like simple artifacts and more like deliberate, enigmatic messages from the past. The White Shaman Rock. Imagine a canvas not of cloth, but of solid limestone stretching over 20 meters. Upon it, a vibrant, chaotic symphony of figures painted in red, black, yellow, and white has survived for over 4,000 years. This is not merely art, it's an encrypted message from a lost world. Welcome to the White Shaman Rock. Nestled along the canyon walls of the Lower Pecos River in Texas, USA, this site is part of one of the densest and oldest collections of rock art in North America. For millennia, the dry desert climate acted as a perfect preservative. We're looking at a masterpiece from the Archaic period, created by hunter-gatherers long before agriculture, empires, or written language arrived in this land. To the untrained eye, it's a magnificent jumble. You see anthropomorphic figures, some with animal attributes, intricate spear-like lines, abstract shapes, and what appear to be bundles or staffs. Dominating the center is a compelling sequence, a line of 5 tall, elegant figures, distinctively stylized. One, often highlighted, is the eponymous White Shaman, characterized by its pale coloration and central pivotal position in the narrative. For over a century, the prevailing theory was a practical one. This was a record of a great battle or a hunting scene. But in the 1970s, a revolutionary interpretation emerged, turning this rock shelter into a spiritual epicenter. Archaeologist Dr. Carolyn Boyd proposed this wasn't about war, but about journey. She saw it not as a literal event, but as a pictorial scripture depicting a shaman's psychedelic voyage to the spirit world to petition for rain, life, and the renewal of the cosmos. This is where we spend our bulk of time, unpacking the symbols like lines of sacred code. Boyd's shamanic theory identifies these not as warriors, but as ancestral deities or spirit guides from Native American cosmology, specifically of the Huichol Wixárikari people, whose traditions in western Mexico show startling parallels. The figures are shown traversing a cosmic portal, often interpreted as the surface of the water or the threshold to the spirit world. The White Shaman itself is in a transformative state, perhaps embodying the central deity, the Great Rain Mother, who grants the life-giving waters. A competing yet complementary theory views the panel as a sophisticated solar calendar. Researchers have observed that during the winter solstice sunrise, dagger-like shafts of light penetrate the canyon and interact with specific painted elements, like striking the heart of a figure or illuminating a particular symbol. This suggests the artists encoded astronomical knowledge into the mural, using it to mark the sun's lowest point, a key time for ceremonies tied to the sun's rebirth and the anticipation of spring rains. The most fascinating modern view is that these interpretations are not mutually exclusive. In ancient worldview, a successful raid required spiritual power. Today, we are not just looking with our eyes. We are using technology to see through time. Portable X-ray fluorescence, just PXRF. This device, held up to the panel, can detect the elemental fingerprint of each paint, we've learned the artists used iron oxides for reds and yellows, manganese for blacks, and gypsum or clay for whites, sourcing materials from specific, sometimes distant locations. Digital microscopy and photogrammetry. By creating a millimeter-perfect 3D model, researchers can see subtle details invisible from the ground. The order of brush strokes, the layering of paint, which color was applied first, and even the faint traces of preliminary sketches made in charcoal. This lets us watch the artist's process unfold, decision by decision. The unanswerable questions, the lingering mysteries. Who was the artist, a scribe? Was this the work of a single visionary shaman over a lifetime, or a collaborative project across generations? Was it a teaching tool? Was this mural a textbook for initiates, used to teach the cosmology, the journey, and the iconography of their belief system? Why this rock? The acoustic properties of the site are notable. Were chants, music, and drumming part of bringing this static image to life during ceremonies? The White Shaman rock refuses to give up a single, simple answer. That is its power and its true mystery. The Eltanin antenna. In 1964, in some of the most remote and hostile waters on Earth, a research vessel stumbled upon an image that would defy explanation for decades. It wasn't a shipwreck or a sunken treasure. It appeared to be a piece of technology, standing perfectly upright on the seafloor 4 kilometers down. This is the story of the Eltanin antenna, a mystery born from a single, haunting photograph. The USNS Eltanin, an oceanographic research vessel, was conducting a routine survey of the seabed west of Cape Horn in the Southern Ocean. Using a towed marine camera to photograph the abyssal plain, they captured a series of images. On one frame, amid the expected sediment and manganese nodules, was a stark, symmetrical object. It stood approximately 60 centimeters tall with a central stem and a series of radiating, spoke-like protrusions at its top, resembling a modern radio antenna or a space-age sea flower. The depth, 3,904 meters, nearly 13,000 feet. The immediate, electrifying question was, what is a complex, technological-looking object doing in a place where no human has ever been, and where no ship could have sunk? The extraterrestrial and ancient advanced civilization hypothesis. This was the first and most sensational theory. Speculation ran wild. It was an alien probe, a piece of a UFO that crashed into the ocean, or a relic of an advanced prehistoric civilization, like Atlantis, that sank millennia ago. Proponents pointed to its perfect symmetry and its resemblance to a technological artifact. The depth made recovery impossible, allowing the mystery to ferment. It became a flagship piece of evidence for out-of-place artifacts, UPARTs, suggesting our history or planetary timeline was fundamentally wrong. A more terrestrial but equally clandestine theory emerged. The early 1960s were the peak of the Cold War. Could this be a secret Soviet or American antenna, lost or planted for submarine communication or surveillance? The remote location supported this. However, the immense depth and pressure posed enormous, arguably insurmountable engineering challenges for 1960s technology. No nation has ever claimed it. The Baltic Sea anomaly. In the summer of 2011, a team of Swedish treasure hunters scanning the Baltic Sea floor for sunken shipwrecks found something that would ignite a global firestorm of speculation. Their sonar image didn't show a ship. It showed a perfect 60-meter circle resting on the seabed, with what appeared to be a massive 300-meter-long runway leading to it. They called it the Baltic Sea Anomaly, and for a moment, the world held its breath, asking, "Have we finally found a UFO?" The team, Ocean X, was led by Peter Lindberg and Dennis Osberg. Using side-scan sonar in a remote area of the Bothnian Sea between Sweden and Finland, they captured the now iconic grayscale image. The central object was unnervingly geometric, a near-perfect disc or cylinder. A long, straight, depressed track seemed to stretch behind it, suggesting it had skidded to a halt. The depth was about 90 meters. The immediate reaction was one of disbelief and technological awe. The shape was too perfect, too structured to be easily dismissed as rock. This was not a blurry photograph of a distant object. It was a clear, technical sonar return, a top-down map of the seafloor. Sonar doesn't lie about shape and dimension. The anomaly's stark geometry clashed violently with the natural, chaotic topography of a glacial seabed. The central question was paralyzing. What natural process on Earth creates a perfect circle with a straight line? The extraterrestrial and ancient megastructure hypothesis. The Millennium Falcon theory exploded online. The object's shape was compared to Star Wars' iconic starship. Speculation suggested a crashed alien vessel, a submerged alien base, or even a piece of ancient anti-gravity technology from a lost civilization like Atlantis. Proponents pointed to secondary claims: that electrical equipment failed near the site, that a sample retrieved was metallic and not rock, and that the object appeared to sit atop a tall pillar. These anecdotes, though never scientifically verified, fueled the narrative of a powerful, otherworldly artifact. A more grounded but equally mysterious theory proposed a massive, lost human creation. Could it be a top-secret Nazi anti-submarine device from World War II, a forgotten Soviet submarine sensor array, or a glacial erratic that was modified in antiquity as a ritual site when the area was dry land? The Baltic Sea did not give up a spaceship. It gave us something perhaps more valuable: a mirror. In its sonar shadow, we see our own capacity for wonder, our vulnerability to pattern seeking, and the powerful, seductive allure of a mystery that promises to rewrite reality. The real anomaly was never on the seafloor. It was in our collective desire to find it there. The genetic disc. Imagine holding a stone carving over 6,000 years old that clearly depicts the human fertilization process, a fetus, and the cellular structure of life itself. This would imply an understanding of human biology that predates the invention of the microscope by millennia. This is the staggering claim behind the object known as the genetic disc. Is it the most profound archaeological discovery ever made, or the most sophisticated hoax? The disc is said to have been found in a tomb near Bogota, Colombia, and is attributed to the mysterious pre-Columbian Quimbaya or Muisca cultures. It is a grey-black stone disc, approximately 22 centimeters in diameter, carved from lyddite, a hard and brittle material. Both sides are covered in incredibly detailed high-relief carvings. Side A shows startlingly clear biological scenes: a male sperm cell with a detailed flagellum, a fertilized ovum, and a developing fetus curled in a womb-like enclosure. Side B appears to depict the stages of cellular division, mitosis, showing a cell splitting into 2, then 4. The rim is also carved with the figures that some interpret as a man, a woman, and a child, completing a life cycle narrative. Proponents like author and researcher Klaus Dohner argue the disc is genuine proof of lost ancient science. Theories to explain this knowledge range from the spiritual, advanced shamanic insight into the nature of life, to the speculative extreme, teaching aids given by extraterrestrial visitors or survivors of a prior advanced civilization like Atlantis. Mainstream archaeologists and historians universally dismiss the disc as a 20th century forgery. There is no credible archaeological record of its discovery. It appeared on the private collector's market, not from a documented dig. The library discovery. What if the dream of spaceflight wasn't born in the 20th century with Goddard and von Braun, but was already a detailed engineering project in the 16th? In 1961, the same year Yuri Gagarin first orbited Earth, a historian in Romania stumbled upon a forgotten manuscript in an attic. Its pages didn't contain philosophy or prayers, but something far more explosive: precise diagrams and equations for building multi-stage rockets, artillery, and even a proposed spacecraft. The manuscript was found in the archives of Sibiu, a city in Transylvania, by researcher Doru Todoriciu. Titled Manuscriptum Mediamontanum, it consists of nearly 500 pages of technical writings and drawings. Its author is identified as Konrad Haas, an Austrian-born military engineer who served as the head of the artillery arsenal for the Kingdom of Hungary and Transylvania in the mid-1500s. Haas's work isn't speculative fantasy, it is a practical, knowledgeable treatise on armaments. But nestled within chapters on cannonballs and fortifications are concepts that feel centuries ahead of their time. The central question is, was Konrad Haas a lone, forgotten genius who outlined the fundamental principles of modern rocketry, or are we misreading the ambitions of a brilliant artillery master? To understand Haas, one must view him not as a proto-astronaut, but as the chief of arsenal for a kingdom on the front lines of the Ottoman-Habsburg Wars. His primary goal was military superiority. His rockets were almost certainly envisioned as advanced war rockets, larger, more accurate, and more powerful versions of the simple gunpowder rockets like Chinese fire arrows that were already known in European warfare. The spacecraft might be a fanciful illustration for a proposed troop-carrying rocket or an explosive-laden drone. The manuscript was never published. It remained a private notebook. Its ideas may have been too advanced, too expensive, or too unstable to build with contemporary metallurgy and chemistry. Furthermore, with Haas's death and the political turmoil of the region, this branch of technical knowledge likely died with him. It would be over 300 years before others independently re-derived the same principles. The Tartaria tablets. What does the birth of writing look like? We imagine the sprawling epic of Gilgamesh from Mesopotamia, or the meticulous accounts on Egyptian papyrus. But what if the first words weren't stories or ledgers, but something far more intimate? A whisper from the grave etched onto a small damp piece of clay. This is the mystery of the Tartaria tablets, 3 tiny artifacts that threaten to tear up the map of civilization's dawn. In 1961, at a Neolithic burial site in Tartaria, Romania, archaeologist Nicolae Vlasa made an astounding find. Within a ritual pit, alongside 2 cremated skeletons, were 3 small unfired clay tablets. 2 were rectangular, 1 was round. Their surface was inscribed with a series of abstract yet orderly symbols, spirals, angular shapes, and what appeared to be a rudimentary pictograph of a goat. They were dated, controversially, to around 5300 BCE. This date is the bomb at the heart of the mystery. If correct, it makes the Tartaria tablets over 1,000 years older than the earliest known Sumerian cuneiform from Mesopotamia, traditionally hailed as the cradle of writing and civilization. The immediate, world-shaking question is, did writing evolve not once in the Middle East, but independently in the forgotten villages of the Balkan Neolithic? The world's first writing hypothesis. This theory, most famously championed by archaeologists like Maria Gimbutas, argues the tablets are a true script, perhaps even a precursor to the later Linear A script of Minoan Crete. The symbols are arranged in groupings and lines, suggesting syntax. It ties into the Old Europe hypothesis, which posits that Neolithic southeastern Europe was a sophisticated, matrifocal, and peaceful civilization that was later overrun by Indo-European invaders. The tablets become the sacred cryptic texts of this lost world, their meaning forever silenced. The Indus Valley Script. We have decoded the royal decrees of Mesopotamia. We recite the epic poetry of Sumer. We read the intricate spells of Egypt's pharaohs. But one of the world's greatest ancient civilizations, spanning an area larger than Egypt and Mesopotamia combined, speaks in utter silence. Its archives are full, but we're illiterate. This is the profound puzzle of the Indus Valley Script, the voice of a sophisticated people that we can see but cannot hear. First uncovered at Harappa and Mohenjo-Daro in the 1920s, the Indus Valley Civilization, circa 3,300 to 1,300 BCE, astounded archaeologists with its planned cities, standardized bricks, advanced plumbing, and vast trade networks. Among its most tantalizing artifacts are thousands of small carved stone seals. These seals feature exquisite images of animals, unicorns, bulls, elephants, but above each image runs a short line of mysterious, elegant symbols. These symbols also appear on pottery, copper tablets, and ivory rods. In total, we have over 4,000 inscribed objects bearing about 400 distinct signs. Here is a complex urban society with central governance, mass production, and long-distance trade, all activities that typically require a written script for administration. We have the texts. We have the context. Yet despite over a century of effort, the script remains stubbornly undeciphered. The central, haunting question is, does this script encode a lost language, or is it something else entirely? A system of non-linguistic symbols that we keep mistaking for writing. Most researchers believe it is a true writing system, encoding a spoken language. The patterns show evidence of syntax, signs follow set orders, and a high frequency of certain combinations, like a logosyllabic system, like Sumerian cuneiform. The great debate here is which language family it represents. Leading candidates include Proto-Dravidian, linking it to the language family of South India, suggesting the Indus people were the ancestors of modern Dravidian speakers, Proto-Indo-European, or a related branch. A more controversial theory placing the roots of Sanskritic culture here. A language isolate, a language with no known relatives, which would make decipherment exponentially harder. The primary obstacle is the shortness of the texts. The average inscription has only 4 to 5 signs, and the longest has just 26. There is no Rosetta Stone, no bilingual text to provide a key. In recent decades, the battle has moved to computer labs. Researchers use complex algorithms to analyze sign sequences, searching for the statistical fingerprints of natural language. Some studies claim to have found evidence of a Dravidian-like linguistic structure, while others support the non-linguistic model. This digital frontier is the new battlefield, where mathematics, not philology, is trying to crack the code. The Indus Valley script may never be fully deciphered. It may stand as a permanent testament to the limits of our reach into the past. Yet, its undeciphered state is powerfully meaningful. It guards the privacy of a civilization, forcing us to appreciate it on its own terms, through the artistry of its seals, the genius of its urban planning, and the sheer scale of its collective endeavor. In its silence, it speaks volumes about the vast, unknowable depths of human history. The Horn Skulls of Sayre. In the quiet hills of Pennsylvania, a discovery was made in the 1880s that promised to rewrite human history. Not just one, but several skeletons of immense size were reportedly unearthed, each with a pair of solid, bony horns protruding 2 inches above the eyebrows. Were they the remains of a lost race of giants, a bizarre genetic tribe, or proof of something even more unsettling? The story of the Horned Skulls of Sayre is a mystery where the evidence vanished, leaving behind only a legend that refuses to die. The story originates from a reputable source, a state historian and Presbyterian clergyman, Dr. G. P. Dunhu, and was investigated by a group of antiquarians, including Dr. Donald A. Skinner of the American Investigating Museum. Around 1880, they were shown a burial mound near Sayre, Pennsylvania. Upon excavation, they allegedly found several male skeletons measuring over 7 feet tall. The defining feature, horn-like bony protuberances, about 2 inches long, on the skulls, located just above the temples. The artifacts found with them, shells, stone beads, and pipes, were said to place the burial at around AD 1200. The skeletons were reportedly shipped to the American Investigating Museum in Philadelphia and then vanished. This is a ghost story in archaeology. The central, frustrating question is, were these a genuine, unprecedented anthropological find, or an elaborate 19th century hoax that escaped its creators? Without the physical evidence, we are left judging the character of the sources and the plausibility of the claim. This is the leading scientific theory. The horns could be a severe case of hyperostosis frontalis interna, HFI, a rare bone disease where knobby, horn-like growths develop on the inner frontal plate of the skull. The twist: HFI is almost exclusively found in post-menopausal women. For multiple male skeletons to have prominent external manifestations would be a medical anomaly of staggering rarity, yet it remains the most plausible natural explanation. Could an isolated tribe have had a unique genetic predisposition to this condition? The claim that the skeletons were sent to Philadelphia and lost in a museum fire or basement is a classic trope of fringe history. No records from the American Investigating Museum, an entity with a suspiciously grand name and little historical footprint, confirm their receipt. We will never find the horned skulls in a museum basement, but we can find their descendants in every online forum and forbidden history book. The Lepedo Child. For decades, the story of our ancestors was one of stark replacement. We believed that when modern humans, Homo sapiens, arrived in Europe, we simply outcompeted and erased the native Neanderthals, a separate, brutish species with whom we shared nothing but a continent and a rivalry. Then, in 1998, in a secluded Portuguese valley, archaeologists found a single, poignant grave. The skeleton inside didn't fit the story of a war. It told a story of a family. In the Lepedo Valley, north of Lisbon, archaeologists João Zilio and Cidália Duarte were excavating a rock shelter when they uncovered a shallow burial pit. Inside were the delicate, ancient bones of a child, carefully buried with respect. Its body had been laid on its back, with red ochre pigment sprinkled over it, and a pierced shell placed on its chest. Radiocarbon dating revealed the child died 24,500 years ago, a time when modern humans were thought to have been the sole survivors in Europe. But when they analysed the skeleton, a shocking duality emerged. The child's anatomy was a mosaic. Some features were classically modern human, a prominent chin, certain tooth characteristics. Others were unmistakably Neanderthal, the robust build of the limbs, the shape of the kneecaps and jaw, and the telltale rearward projection of the skull. This was not a missing link, but a first-generation hybrid. The immediate, paradigm-shattering question was, did we not just replace the Neanderthals, but instead love them, have children with them, and ultimately absorb them into our very being? This is now the dominant scientific view, powerfully supported by the skeleton. The child's body was not an intermediate blend, but a patchwork of distinct traits from two different genetic blueprints. This is exactly what first-generation offspring look like. The burial itself is critical evidence. The use of ochre and ritual is a hallmark of early modern human culture in Europe. A Neanderthal child would not have received such a burial from a hostile human group. This care suggests the child was fully accepted by its community, a living symbol of a connection that was social, not just biological. The Lepedo child lived thousands of years after the last known pure Neanderthal populations vanished approximately 40,000 years ago. This suggests Neanderthals did not go extinct in a sudden wipeout. A compelling theory is that as modern human populations expanded, remaining Neanderthal groups were absorbed through interbreeding along the frontiers of contact, like in the Iberian Peninsula, which was a possible last refuge. The child may represent one of the final generations of this millennia-long process of assimilation, not annihilation. A minority of researchers initially argued the skeleton could be a chimeric mix of bones from two different individuals, or simply a stocky, robust, modern human child. A morphological throwback. However, meticulous analysis of the skeleton's integrity and the specific localized nature of the Neanderthal traits, not a global robustness, have rendered these objections marginal. The hybrid interpretation has withstood 2 decades of intense scrutiny. The 10,000-year-old dwarf skeleton. We think of human evolution as a single, triumphant march from primitive ape to modern human, with all other branches long extinct. But what if, hidden on a remote island, a completely different kind of human, a tiny, small-brained cousin, survived undetected, walking the earth at the same time as our ancestors were building the first cities? This is not fantasy. In 2003, on the Indonesian island of Flores, archaeologists found a skeleton that turned our family tree into a tangled bush. Deep inside the Liang Boar cave, a joint Australian-Indonesian team led by Mike Morwood and Thomas Sutikna was excavating through layers of time. In sediments dated to 18,000 years ago, they uncovered a near-complete skeleton of a tiny adult female. She stood just over a meter tall, about 3.5 feet, and had a brain roughly 1/3 the size of our own. They named her Homo floresiensis, but the world called her the Hobbit. Remarkably, later evidence showed this species lived from about 100,000 to 50,000 years ago, meaning they thrived while Homo sapiens was spreading across the globe. This creature presented an impossible mosaic. Its small stature and small brain were archaic, reminiscent of early hominins like Australopithecus. Yet the stone tools found with it were sophisticated, and evidence suggested group hunting of dwarf elephants. The immediate jarring question was, what was this creature? Was it a diseased modern human, a dwarf descendant of Homo erectus, or a relic from a much earlier, unknown migration out of Africa? The initial skeptical response from some paleoanthropologists was that this was a Homo sapiens with a severe growth disorder. Conditions like microcephaly, small head, Laron syndrome, or cretinism were proposed. Detailed analysis of the bones, particularly the wrist and skull anatomy, revealed features not seen in any modern human, diseased or healthy, for over 1 million years. The skeleton was consistently primitive across its entire anatomy, not just in isolated pathological ways. A disease might shrink a brain, but it wouldn't recreate the exact wrist bones of an Australopithecus. This became the leading theory. Homo erectus was known to be in Southeast Asia over 1 million years ago. The island rule is a well-known evolutionary phenomenon, and where large species shrink and small species grow when isolated on islands with limited resources. The theory posits that a population of H. erectus reached Flores and over hundreds of thousands of years shrank in body and brain size to adapt. Their tools became smaller but remained cleverly made. This explained the unique combination of primitive traits and sophisticated behavior. The most radical theory suggests Homo floresiensis did not descend from erectus, but from an even earlier, more primitive hominin that left Africa before Homo erectus, perhaps something akin to Homo habilis. This would mean an entirely unknown chapter of human migration over 2 million years ago. This theory is fueled by the Hobbit's extremely archaic features, like its wrist and shoulder bones, which seem too primitive to have come from the more advanced erectus skeleton, even after dwarfing. Modern humans, Homo sapiens, are thought to have reached the region around 50,000 years ago. The latest evidence suggests H. floresiensis vanished around 50,000 years ago. This timeline is not a coincidence. It raises the darkest and most compelling question: did we meet them? And if so, what was the nature of that encounter? The Lovelock Cave Giants. In the harsh desert of Nevada, a cave once submerged beneath an ancient lake gave up a secret that has fueled a century of debate. Was it a time capsule of a lost culture, a grim tomb of cannibalistic giants from legend, or simply the hard-lived home of native people? The story of Lovelock Cave is where meticulous archaeology collides head-on with sensational myth, and the line between them has never been clear. The saga begins not with archaeologists, but with guano miners. Around 1911, miners excavating the nitrate-rich bat droppings from Lovelock Cave began unearthing a staggering array of artifacts. Recognizing the importance, archaeologists from the University of California and later the Museum of the American Indian launched proper excavations from 1912 to the 1920s. They found a stratified record of human habitation spanning over 4,000 years. The finds were spectacular and unambiguous. Exquisite duck decoys made of tule reed, the oldest in the world, sophisticated baskets, sandals, weapons, and the remnants of a rich, adapted culture that thrived by the vanished Lake Lahontan. So where do the giants come in? The mystery stems from two converging streams: Paiute oral history and a few anomalous archaeological reports. The northern Paiute people tell of the Site Ka, a tribe of red-haired, cannibalistic giants their ancestors fought and eventually trapped in a cave. Some early newspaper accounts and a controversial 1931 article claim that within Lovelock Cave, alongside the standard artifacts, excavators found mummified remains of individuals over 7 feet tall with distinctive red hair. The central question is, does the archaeological evidence support the legend of a distinct, large-bodied people, or has the myth co-opted and exaggerated mundane finds? The lost race, or pre-Paiute giant theory. This theory, popularized in fringe history, takes the legend literally. It posits that the Site Ka were a phenotypically distinct population, perhaps early, archaic immigrants to the Americas, even speculatively linked to Solutreans or Celts, who were displaced or exterminated by the ancestors of the Paiutes. Supporters point to the reported finds of red-haired mummies and the mention of giant bones. They argue that mainstream archaeology ignores this evidence to fit a standard narrative of New World settlement. Like the horned skulls of Sayre, the physical proof for giants is elusive. The most cited sources are sensationalized newspaper articles, not peer-reviewed site reports. The durable, verified artifacts all point to a known indigenous way of life. The story gained massive traction in the early 20th century, a time obsessed with lost races and giant theories, often used to discredit Native American claims to antiquity and land. Lovelock Cave became a perfect vessel for these pre-existing ideas. The Lovelock giant mystery is less about archaeology and more about human psychology and the politics of history. The Star Child skull. What does a human-alien hybrid look like? For decades, a single, bizarre skull has been presented as the answer, with its strange shape, abnormal bone structure, and an origin story shrouded in mystery. The so-called Star Child skull has become the ultimate icon for those who believe in ancient extraterrestrial contact. But is this a genetic bombshell from the stars, or a heartbreaking medical relic from our own world? The story, as told by its main proponents, is this. In the 1930s, an American teenager in Mexico discovered a mine shaft containing 2 skeletons, one normal adult human and one small, misshapen child. She took both skulls and kept them in a box for decades. In the 1990s, they came into the possession of researcher Lloyd Pye, who launched the Star Child project. He argued the child's skull was too anatomically strange to be human, pointing to its enormous shallow eye sockets, unfused cranial plates, unusual bone fibers, and lack of frontal sinuses. The skull is undeniably unusual, but the fundamental question it poses is one of diagnosis versus origin. Is this a specimen of unknown, non-human intelligence? Or is it a tragically deformed human child, its physical suffering now being misinterpreted as proof of alien life? The answer lies at the intersection of genetics, pathology, and a profound human desire to not be alone in the universe. Lloyd Pye and supporters claim the skull's traits were biologically impossible for Homo sapiens. The cranial volume was purportedly 1,600 cubic centimeters, larger than the adult human average, yet the skull was from a 5-year-old child. The rear was bulbous and elongated. This theory views the skull with empathy. A child with such a severe condition would have required constant care. The fact it lived to age 5 is a testament to the compassion of its community. The discovery with an adult skeleton suggests a caretaker or parent buried together. It is not an alien relic, but a story of prehistoric love and loss. We must look at the Star Child skull not with the eyes of a UFO hunter, but with the heart of a fellow human. In its distorted features, we see the shadow of suffering. But in its very preservation, we see the light of compassion. The necropolis of the Longheads. On a barren, wind-scoured peninsula of coastal Peru lies a cemetery unlike any other. Here, the dead were buried not just with treasures, but with a permanent radical alteration of their very form. The Paracas skulls are the world's most extreme and enigmatic examples of cranial deformation. But were these shapes created solely by cultural binding, or do they hint at a more profound biological mystery locked inside the bone itself? In the 1920s, the Peruvian archaeologist Julio C. Tello uncovered a massive, complex necropolis on the Paracas Peninsula. He unearthed hundreds of tomb bundles containing some of the most exquisite textiles ever found in the ancient world. Within these bundles were the remains of the elite priestly class, many with dramatically elongated skulls. Dating from around 800 to 100 BCE, these skulls represented the Paracas culture, a sophisticated pre-Inca society known for its mastery of art, irrigation, and, it seems, radical body modification. While cranial deformation through head binding is a well-documented global practice, the Paracas skulls present a series of anomalies that push the boundaries of that explanation. They are exceptionally large, possess a cranial volume up to 25% greater than average modern human skulls, and often lack the sagittal suture, the midline fissure where the skull plates meet. This leads to the central question. Did the Paracas people merely sculpt the shape of their children's heads as a cultural ideal? Or were they, through ritual or isolation, modifying a population that was already biologically distinct? This is the standard archaeological explanation. From infancy, a child's head was tightly bound between two boards or with cloth, applying constant pressure over years to mold the soft, developing skull into an elongated shape. This practice was a powerful social and religious marker. An elongated head signified nobility, spiritual status, or a connection to the gods. The Parakas, as master weavers, would have had the skill to create the binding textiles. Their art often depicts deities and elites with elongated heads, cementing the ideal. In 2014, preliminary genetic analysis was performed on hair and tooth samples from some Parakas' skulls. The reported results were explosive. They showed mitochondrial DNA with mutations unknown in any human, primate, or animal known so far. This claim, presented outside mainstream peer-reviewed journals, suggested an entirely unknown human lineage. Unsurprisingly, it was met with intense skepticism from the scientific community, which criticized the methodology and chain of custody of the samples. The Parakas' elongated skulls. In the silence of a Peruvian desert, a culture committed to an idea so powerful, they etched it not in stone, but in bone. The Parakas necropolis is not merely a cemetery, it is a gallery of deliberate human transformation. But what began as a study of cultural practice has spiraled into one of archaeology's most heated modern battles, where science, speculation, and the human desire for the extraordinary violently collide. Our story begins with Julio C. Tello, the father of Peruvian archaeology. In the 1920s, his excavations on the Paracas Peninsula revealed a society of profound sophistication centuries before the Inca. They were master hydraulic engineers, celestial observers, and weavers whose textiles are considered among the finest artistic achievements of the ancient world. Their elite were buried in seated, fetal positions within immense funerary bundles containing golden cloth. And crucially, many of these elites, men, women, and children, possessed dramatically elongated craniums. The central mystery is no longer how the skulls were shaped. Head binding is the established method. But why this practice reached such an extreme here, and what the modern interpretation of these skulls says about us. Are we looking at a profound cultural ritual, or have these remains been kidnapped by a 21st century mythology that needs them to be alien? Head binding, cranial deformation, is a slow, years-long process started within weeks of birth. For the Parakas, it was a form of embodied identity. This was not a vague aesthetic. In Andean cosmology, the head was the seat of Animu, life force, and Lami, divine creative power. An elongated head physically manifested a larger reservoir of this force, marking the individual as a conduit to the gods. It was a permanent, biological insignia of nobility, setting the ruling priestly class apart from the common populace in life and death. The Red Deer Cave people. We think we know the story. By 15,000 years ago, only one type of human walked the earth, us, Homo sapiens. The Neanderthals were gone, the Denisovans had vanished, the planet was ours. But what if, in the misty forests of prehistoric China, a relic population, a ghost lineage from a much older human world, survived in isolation, lingering into an age when civilization was just beginning to stir? This is the claim that makes the Red Deer Cave people not just a fossil find, but a potential revolution. In 1979, in Maludong, Red Deer Cave, in Yunnan Province, China, miners uncovered a trove of ancient bones. They were set aside, catalogued, and largely forgotten for decades. It wasn't until 2008 that a team of Chinese and Australian scientists led by Professor Ji Xueping and Darren Kernow, took a fresh look. The bones were not petrified fossils, but fresh-looking, dark-stained remains. Radiocarbon dating delivered a shock. These individuals lived as recently as 14,500 to 11,500 years ago. This was the tail end of the Stone Age, contemporaneous with sophisticated Homo sapiens cultures elsewhere. The anatomy was the second, greater shock. The skulls and bones displayed a startling mosaic. They had modern human-like brain sizes and flat faces, but also a suite of strikingly archaic features. Prominent brow ridges, thick skull bones, a jutting jaw with no chin, and broad, heavy bodies. They looked, in essence, like a holdover from a much earlier chapter of human evolution. The immediate, destabilizing question was, who were they? A bizarrely primitive tribe of Homo sapiens, a remnant population of earlier humans like Homo erectus, or something entirely new? The deeper mystery. What does human even mean? The Red Deer Cave. People force us to confront the fluidity of our own family tree, the end of human uniqueness. Their recent existence shatters the comforting idea that for the last 25,000 years, Earth has been the exclusive domain of anatomically modern humans. It suggests our world was, until a geological eye blink ago, still a Middle Earth, shared with other kinds of people. Evolution as a bush, not a ladder. They are a powerful testament to the diversity and experimentation of human evolution. Different human forms evolved, adapted, and survived in different ecological niches. Our linear march of progress is a myth. The skeletons of Rupkund Lake, at 5,029 meters, 16,500 feet, in the frozen heart of the Indian Himalayas, lies a small glacial lake with a grim secret. When the ice melts each summer, the shores of Rupkund reveal not water, but a macabre carpet of hundreds of ancient human skeletons. For over a century, this site has been a grisly enigma. Who were these people, and what catastrophic event could have killed so many in one of the most remote and inhospitable places on Earth? The Skeleton Lake was officially brought to wider attention in 1942 by a British forest ranger, though it has been known to local Himalayan villagers for generations. They called it Mystery Lake, Rupkund. The immediate scene was baffling. Between 300 and 800 individual skeletons, many with flesh and hair still attached due to the cold, lay scattered around and within the shallow lake. Initial theories were dramatic but simple. Perhaps a marching army, a pilgrim party, or a caravan caught in a single terrible disaster. The first investigations in the 1950s and 1960s created the foundational mystery. Radiocarbon dating suggested the individuals died around 850 AD. Anthropologists noted many had sharp, deep cracks in their skulls. The official story crystallized. A large group of pilgrims, led by a king or a queen, was caught in a freak, devastating hailstorm. Hailstones the size of cricket balls, common in the high mountains, were posited as the murder weapon, explaining the fatal head trauma. Case closed? Not even close. The 800 AD group, likely a mixed group of Indian pilgrims on the Nanda Devi Raj Jat, a famous triennial pilgrimage that passes near the lake. The hailstorm theory fits them. The 1800 AD group. This is the profound new mystery. What was a group of people from the Mediterranean doing in the high Himalayas in the 1800s? They were not typical travelers. One theory suggests they were employed by a Raja or a wealthy trader, perhaps as artisans, musicians, or even mercenaries. Another far-out theory links them to a failed military campaign or a lost exploration party. Rupkund Lake is a monument to the relentless human spirit of journey and the indifferent power of the natural world. We look at the bones and see a puzzle, but we should also see a mirror, a reflection of our own enduring need to cross mountains, our capacity to connect across continents, and the fragile thread that has always separated exploration from oblivion. The Admiral's Legacy. In 1929, in the dusty archives of Istanbul's Topkapi Palace, a lost artifact resurfaced that would ignite one of the 20th century's greatest historical controversies. It wasn't a jewel or a weapon, but a map. A beautiful, bewildering map from 1513 that appeared to show the coastline of a continent that wouldn't be officially discovered for another 300 years. This is the story of the Piri Reis map, a document that asks a terrifyingly simple question. Did ancient cartographers know the world in a way history has completely forgotten? The map was drawn on gazelle skin by Piri Reis, an Ottoman admiral, geographer, and former pirate. In meticulous notes on the map itself, he states it was compiled from 20 source maps, some contemporary, like Columbus's charts, some ancient, including maps dating back to the 4th century BC and the Library of Alexandria. The map is stunningly accurate for its time for the Mediterranean and shows parts of the Atlantic, including Brazil and Caribbean islands. But in the southern Atlantic, it depicts a landmass with bays, rivers, and a coastline that bears a shocking resemblance to Queen Maud Land, Antarctica. The problem is temporal and geographical. Antarctica was first sighted in 1820. Its coast is perpetually locked under a mile-thick ice cap that has existed for at least 6 million years. The central, mind-bending question of the Piri Reis map is this: how could a 16th century Ottoman admiral depict a landmass that was both undiscovered and whose defining, ice-free features had been invisible to all of humanity for epochs? The mainstream scholarly interpretation: a misplaced terra australis. Historians of cartography argue the Antarctica is actually a composite of misplotted and mythical southern lands. Renaissance mapmakers, knowing the Earth was a sphere, hypothesized a large southern continent, Terra Australis Incognita, to balance the northern landmasses. The rivers are cartographic errors, stylistic flourishes, or depictions of other rumored lands. The resemblance to Antarctica is, in this view, a coincidence of modern pareidolia. We see what we want to see on a vague, speculative outline. The ancient source maps hypothesis. This theory takes Piri Reis at his word. It argues he had access to source maps from a pre-Ice Age civilization, be it an advanced unknown culture or a speculative one like Atlantis, that mapped the world when Antarctica was last ice-free over 6 million years ago. Proponents like Professor Charles Hapgood point to the map's seemingly accurate longitude, a problem not solved until the 18th century, and specific coastal details that align with subglacial topography, the shape of the land under the Antarctic ice, revealed only by modern seismic surveys in the 1950s. This is the radical core of the mystery. Did a global seafaring civilization exist in deep prehistory, and was its geographical knowledge passed down in fragments through the libraries of Alexandria and Constantinople? The forgotten Portuguese exploration theory. A middle ground theory suggests that in the early 1500s, a secret Portuguese expedition might have sighted parts of the Antarctic Peninsula or sub-Antarctic islands, like South Georgia. To protect their trade secrets, Portugal guarded such discoveries closely, but fragments of the knowledge leaked into the hands of a well-connected Ottoman admiral like Peri Reis, who incorporated them as best he could. The deeper mystery, the death and rebirth of knowledge. The Peri Reis map's true power is as a symbol of the fragility of human knowledge. The Lost Library of Alexandria. Peri Reis's citation of ancient Alexandrian sources taps into our deepest cultural anxiety about lost knowledge. The burning of that library represents the single greatest intellectual catastrophe in history. The map tantalizingly suggests slivers of that knowledge, perhaps itself copies of copies, survived. The limits of the official record. History is written by the survivors. The map forces us to ask how many voyages, discoveries, and scientific insights have been lost to war, fire, or deliberate suppression. Our timeline of exploration may be a threadbare narrative, missing entire chapters. The human need for a complete world. The map embodies the ancient and medieval mindset that the world must be symmetrical and complete. The empty spaces on a map were an affront to reason and divinity. Cartographers filled them with bestiaries, monsters, and conjectural continents. The Peri Reis map may show us less about Antarctica and more about the medieval compulsion to complete the cosmic picture. The Peri Reis map will likely never be definitively solved. It exists in the interstices between provable history and irresistible speculation. It is a legitimate, magnificent artifact of the 16th century Ottoman scholarship that, by accident or by eerie design, brushes up against one of geology's greatest facts: the ancient, ice-free face of Antarctica. Its greatest lesson is not that aliens or Atlanteans drew maps, but that the past is far more complex and poorly recorded than we comfortably assume. We look at the Peri Reis map and see a ghost. Whether that ghost is the phantom of a lost civilization, the echo of a forgotten Portuguese sail, or simply the shimmer of human error and imagination on parchment, it haunts us. It whispers that our understanding of history is a story we tell ourselves. And sometimes, the old documents in the archive have a different tale to tell, one we are no longer equipped to fully understand.